Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of India Net Zero Alliance and First View Group, I am Ella, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on Net Zero Energy Roadmap for Pharmaceuticals. We're truly delighted to have you join us for what promises to be a high impact and forward thinking discussion. Today's session brings together top voices from the pharmaceutical sector and sustainability space, a unique convergence that aims to shape a greener, more efficient future for pharma operations. Before we begin, let me quickly walk you through what to expect from this exciting session. The pharmaceutical industry stands at a pivotal juncture where innovation, compliance, and sustainability must come together. With rising energy costs, tightening regulations, and the growing urgency to reduce environmental impact, achieving net zero energy is not just an aspiration, it's a strategic business necessity. In today's webinar, we'll explore practical strategies to reduce carbon footprints, integrate renewable energy solutions, optimize energy efficiency, and do all this while ensuring business growth and regulatory compliance. So, before we kick off the main discussions, I'm excited to introduce our exclusive partner for today's webinar, Sunsure Energy, a company committed to driving India's clean energy transition. We now begin the proceedings with our inaugural address. It's an honor to invite Dr. Sudarshan Jain, Secretary General of the Indian Pharmaceutical Alliance, a stalwart of the industry who has been actively championing the cause of innovation and sustainability in pharma. Welcome, Dr. Jain. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to industry colleagues and all delegates. Uh, I would also like to thank Dr. Virachi Shah, who will be joining after this for keynote address, and Kartikeya Shah. I will also going through the various confirmed speakers, and we have a very distinguished speaker for the topic, which is very, very important and fundamental for everyone. Congratulations to Sunsure Energy and First View Group for inviting me for this outstanding and much sought after theme, which is fundamental going forward. Today, we have both business and sustainability leaders of Indian companies, which is essential to make a difference to sustainability agenda. I will start by quoting John Salk, a virologist famous for developing the polio vaccine. First question: are we good ancestors? Yes, we have to be a good citizen, but we have to be a good ancestor. Whatever we do today, we have implication for our children. Right in the morning, I was trying to look at the AQI index all over the country. And today, yes, in the month of November and December, it is very high. But today is also 200 to 300, which is much more than 50 to 100. So the question which always comes to my mind, and when I see my grandchildren, that are we doing enough for our children for tomorrow? It is not important only to save lives, but also important for us being in the pharma industry to create an environment where our children can breathe and live peacefully and sustainably. In the last 20 years, last 50 years, we see we as a world have made tremendous progress. The average age, which used to be around 50 years, has gone up to 74 years. The world population has increased more than 2 times. Trade has grown 10 times. Global economy has grown 5 times. There's the extraction of natural resources and energy has tripled. Yes, we have grown, but we have created a deep impact on environment. And unless we take a call now, already we are late. We will have a deep impact on the future life. We are leaders in pharmaceuticals around the world. We contribute 20% of the pharmaceutical production. And Dr. Virachi Shah is here, and many of my colleagues during the course of the discussion will be joining. And all of us in the pharma industry, we owe it to the world, and we realize that responsibility, that it is not only our responsibility to provide affordable quality medicine to save the world, but also produce the medicine in a way which is sustainable to the environment. And I will give a lot of examples of that kind. So there is a high degree of consciousness as far as that area is concerned. Because we in pharma industry realize that net zero for pharma matters, it is important, and it is fundamental to the cause of living life to the fullest. That's the primary cause of the pharma industry. Pharma industry, there is a contribution to greenhouse emissions from energy intensive process to cold chain logistics where we can make an impact. There is a growing scrutiny from regulators, investors, and global partners on all these issues. We have to achieve global India's net zero target by 2070 and global SDG commitment, but that's a long time to go. But still, we have to start working on that right now. And sustainability will be a competitive advantage. Indian companies have taken strides in renewable energy, water neutrality, and zero solid waste to landfill, and the global leaders in ESG among all pharma companies in the world. We were looking at the Dow Sustainability Index, and it is such a pleasure to see that there are 7 Indian companies which are among top 11 companies as far as global sustainability index is concerned. Dr. Reddy, CIPLA, and even the emerging company, JB Pharma comes in. So, Dr. Virachi, I was so happy that we are seeing our Indian companies making a dent in this area, which is fundamental as far as the healthcare industry is concerned. There will be a lot of examples which will be quoted during the course of the discussion. I will not focus much on that, but I'd like to highlight some of the few examples which I was going through. Like Aurobindo Pharma has been working on making the glass bottles thin, so you reduce the material which is being used. We are examining the blister packaging material. What can be done to save that material without sacrificing the cost, without sacrificing the quality? Because at the end of the day, what you highlighted during your introductory remark, quality, compliance, and sustainability are fundamental as far as healthcare industry is concerned. Dr. Reddy has been working on user-friendly digital platform to streamline the workflows and the company's safety. CIPLA's renewable energy, 100% of uh, operations by 2025. And both CIPLA and Dr. Reddy have facilities which have been recognized as digital lighthouse in the world. And sustainability is a very, very important part as far as the whole thing is concerned. IPA is also working with the Center for Process Innovation under UK, India's partnership to boost decarbonization. Living Lab in Council of Scientific Industrial Research, Indian Chemical Laboratory, has launched a program of continuous manufacturing, which significantly reduces greenhouse gas emissions. So there is a lot of work which is going on, and that was the project which was launched last month. And one of the things where we were saying, Dr. Mashelkar was there, that quality, compliance, and sustainability, they are integrated agenda. They cannot be taken separately. Going forward, although the initial focus has been on scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, but going forward, scope 3 emissions will become important. We will move from carbon intensive supply chain to regenerative systems across the value chain. Net zero roadmaps with emphasis on innovation, circular economy, and clean energy transition will become very, very important. This agenda is not a simple agenda. This agenda will require commitment of all. We have to be in mission mode because we have to remember that we are not only good citizens, we are good ancestors, and we have to work not only for the health of today, but health of tomorrow. Once again, thank you for inviting me, and we have got outstanding speakers. Dr. Virachi Shah will be here. Thank you very much, and I wish all the way back to the positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jain, for setting the tone with such insightful and inspiring words. Next up, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Virachi Shah, National Spokesperson of the Indian Drug Manufacturers Association, who brings a unique perspective on how Indian pharma can lead in climate action while maintaining global competitiveness. Over to you, Dr. Shah.
Thank you so much, and special thanks to Sudarshan ji for a wonderful inaugural speech, setting the tone, highlighting some of the very important things that the Indian pharma is already doing, and the kind of scope that we all have. But on a lighter tone, when I was just reviewing this terminology of net zero, we are more concerned currently on the net zero tariffs it could bring, and that could probably a very important focus area for all of us in pharma with what is happening globally. But honestly, net zero is not a new concept for us. And when we speak of scalability, because ultimately, whatever we do in Indian pharma, our ultimate goal is to scale several times in the next 25 years during the Amrit Kal. One of the recent examples where we could see a union of scalability and sustainability was Mahakumbh. Now, if you see Mahakumbh, unlike several of the previous episodes, uh, with almost 50 crore people visiting Mahakumbh, you could never see littering of plastic bottles or things like that. That has not come up. The way it was handled was, I would say, a great example of how you can do a scale with a lot of social responsibility. When we speak of Mahakumbh, we also know that the purpose of Mahakumbh was to celebrate the nectar that had come out of something called churning, which was nothing but Samudra Manthan. And if you see, the mythology during the churning, there were 14 essential elements that have come out. One of which was, of course, Amrit, where they had Kumbh, and the Kumbh was taken to four places, which we all celebrated in the Mahakumbh. But the essence of what was written in Indian mythology several thousand years back was during the Samudra Manthan. We got 14 useful elements and one poison. I think that is one of the very important indication that the churning was done in such a way that it had a lot of useful products and a very little waste was created. And we all know that the one product that had come out, which was a poison, we had to call Lord Shiva to come and drink it so that humanity was saved. And ultimately, he tried to drink the poison, and we know him as a Nilkant. So, right from thousands of years, Indian society has embraced growth and scalability with social responsibility, with sustainability. And today we don't have Lord Shiva, so we are only dependent on our own selves to make sure that the one wish that comes out along with the Amrit, that one wish is minimal, the poison is minimal, and the output is maximum. And that is ultimately what leads us to clean manufacturing, sustainable goals, and net zero, reducing our carbon emissions. So what are we doing in pharma? Sudarshan ji has already highlighted many of the success stories. A lot of them are success stories. Many of them are success stories in the making. But a lot of emphasis have recently, been made on green chemistry, uh, converting, especially in the API and KSM manufacturing, converting many of the processes from solvent-based technologies to water-based technologies, or reducing the chemistry part of it by replacing the normal catalyst with, for example, biochemistry and biocatalyst. A lot has been done also by using enzymes for conversions, which are more efficient and more eco-compatible. So by introducing the reuse of solvents, reuse of water, uh, getting more out of less. So using minimal resources, reducing the number of steps in your reaction. Even on the formulation front, like Sudarshanji suggested, addressing the thickness of a bottle, a very small but very significant step, or addressing the blister packaging. There are also examples where companies have stopped using package inserts and used started using QR code inserts, so that they save that much more on paper. There have been examples where the packaging that have been used are not laminated. So again, to reduce the use of plastic on packaging. So a lot of things have been done, and much more has to be done, especially when we are looking at an industry that is most likely to scale 10 times or more in the coming 20-25 years. So we are, as an industry, aware of our responsibilities, and we are all working towards ensuring that the growth is sustainable. We are responsible. We are very much aware of our responsibilities to the environment, and we all should take care that while we save lives of billions of people across the globe, we do not create an environment that in turns hurt them. So saving lives and disturbing the environment doesn't go hand in hand. We are aware of it. We are working uh, very focused on the net zero and sustainability goals. I compliment the organizers for today in taking up this very important discussion forward, and I'm sure the participants who are here today will have some very good take home. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shah, for those thought provoking insights. Let's now turn to the industry side of the conversation. But before that, I would just like to screen a poll question here where we would just like to get to know our audience a bit better. These poll questions will stay open till the end of the webinar, so I would request our audience to kindly cast in their votes. You have time till the end of the webinar. It'll stay open, and now we shall proceed with our next presentation. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Karthikeya Sharma, co-founder and CBO of Sunsure Energy. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Ayla, and I want to start my address with first of all thanking very warmly Dr. Jain and Dr. Shah for sharing such amazing views on and putting it in context for not just the industry members who are part of this discussion, but also the larger audience, because sometimes these analogies really help put forward some profound points which are otherwise lost on laymen who are part of these discussions. So I will just put up my presentation. I have a small technical presentation that we have put together to help kick off this discussion. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. So at Sunshore, we truly believe that every kind of business can use the right kind of energy, and in the context of pharma, which is one of the most energy-intensive industries of our country, this definitely rings very true. I will quickly move forward with talking about Sunshore, and then I have in this presentation a quick view of what net zero means for the pharma industry, and also a very short case study of how we have helped one of the largest pharmaceutical manufacturers in the country adopt renewable energy and move forward on their net zero goals. So at Sunshore, we are, a fully integrated independent power producer. What that means is that we set up renewable energy power assets and we sell power. to industries, the government, and we have under our belt over 500 megawatts of operational capacity and about 6 gigawatts of under development power plants. As you can tell, owning these massive renewable energy assets is a very capital intensive business. And we are fortunate to have partners groups support with about $400 million in equity investment. For the last 2 years, we've been investing this massive capital into helping the decarbonization journey of industries across the country. And we hope to set up about 10 gigawatts of solar and wind energy along with battery storage by 2030 and contribute meaningfully to the Prime Minister's goal of setting up 500 gigawatts of solar power and other renewable energy assets by 2030 in the country. So we supply, of course, both solar and wind, and also now solar coupled with storage to industries. But we also help supply green attributes, which help you offset your greenhouse gas footprint over whatever you've created over any particular year. And you can do this with the help of virtual PPAs as well as direct green attributes purchased from us. This is how our plants are spread across the country. So India is very fortunate to have a lot of natural resource in terms of both abundant sunlight and also a very long and diverse coastline, which helps set up very high performing wind power plants across the country. As you can see, we are present with wind power in states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu, and are also doing a lot of solar in states like Gujarat, Andhra, MP, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. Now, coming to our contribution to the pharmaceutical industry, I want to highlight that we have some really formidable pharma manufacturers that we have helped sign almost 90 megawatts of renewable purchase agreements. And all of this power has been delivered. In some cases, it's been delivered in less than 5 months of signing the PPAs. And this is in addition to our overall diverse set of customers across all kinds of power intensive sectors, including data centers, steel manufacturing, cement, heavy industries, automotive, and so on. The pharma industry, of course, is one of the most critical industries in the world, and with the massive weight of responsibility that the pharma industry carries, and like Dr. Shah very profoundly mentioned that as you try to do a lot of good, there is always some amount of waste that you end up generating, and it's important to know that the pharmaceutical sector actually accounts for about 4% of global GHG emissions, whereas in India, we are at about 3.2% of India's industrial emissions, which are about 35% of overall emissions in the country. We are, of course, called fondly the pharmacy of the world. We are the third largest drug producer globally by volume. We, in fact, supply 20% of the world's generic medicine supplies, and our pharma exports, are expected to reach north of 30 lakh crores by 2047. So this period that is also known as Amrit Kal is definitely a period of massive growth and scaling efforts for the pharmaceutical industry. Today in India, when you talk about decarbonization, especially energy decarbonization, it's very important to understand that where you are located plays a big part in what you can do. So in India today, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana, and Andhra Pradesh have the largest number of pharmaceutical industry hotspots with dedicated pharma clusters. Maharashtra has 40 pharmaceutical clusters, followed by Gujarat at 13, and Andhra and Telangana at 7. Of course, every state has different kinds of setups and different kinds of drugs are manufactured in these places. When you talk about net zero for pharma, you have to look at what is your distribution of your overall footprint across scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And as Dr. Jain actually in his inaugural address mentioned that the net zero, the GHG emission spread is very bottom-ended or very back-ended for the pharmaceutical industry, with almost 80% of the contribution coming from either waste disposal or emissions associated with vendors. Having worked with some really large pharmaceutical manufacturers in India, we understand that typical large-scale pharmaceutical supply chains can have over 25 to 30 very large partners in as part of your supply chain, and helping all of them achieve a sustainable uh, way of manufacturing is definitely a challenge that the larger manufacturers, I believe, all of the manufacturers that we have on the panel today will be able to weigh in on this problem. But what I can shed a light on is the scope 2 emissions bit. So the power that you consume from the grid is something that we can help green out, and we believe that can help offset anywhere from 15 to 20% of the GHG footprint that the industry typically carries from the scope 2 emissions. We believe that energy use is actually the lowest hanging fruit for any industry to decarbonize today, because not only is it now a very well established ecosystem in India, but it is also capable of bringing down energy costs quite massively. And that is why we see, all the pharma majors are taking big strides in adoption of power. Most of it happens through open access PPAs. Again, something that the panel today would be very well educated on, because all of them, I understand, are open access as well as on-site power consumers. Green attributes continues to be a popular way of offsetting greenhouse emissions, but it is still kind of finding its feet in India. So happy to hear about that as well from the panel. But overall, open access power is a great way to offset your scope 2 emissions, because it fixes your power prices for 25 years. You can go 75% of your grid power, especially if you're in the states of Gujarat, Maharashtra, or Andhra, where both solar and wind are available in abundant supply. And of course, there are players like us who make sure that you don't have any risk to development, technology, or the operations of the project. Now, moving to a short case study of how your energy use actually can be offset using open access. So this is, a company for which we set up about 25 megawatts of solar. This is a company based in Maharashtra, and they were using about 52 million units of power every year, which amounts to annual billing of north of I think 50 crores in power expenses. So what you have over here, what you see on this chart is energy consumption from the grid in different TOTs. Now this is a very important aspect. If you're in the state of Maharashtra, you would know that this has been a big bone of contention as to what would be the tariff in different TOTs and what would be the time slot. Typically, you have a lot of power consumption between morning, between basically 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That is the first TOT, and then from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is largely the second TOT. Now, when you use solar open access, you're able to, if you see the graph below, you're able to green up almost 90% of your 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and also able to, almost completely offset your 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Supply, right? So your daytime power entirely from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. can actually be offset to solar. That's about 50%, and then you're able to take another 10% from your night supply because of banking. So you can put excess power in the grid in the morning, and then you can use that in the night. So overall, we were able to take this customer to about 60% of renewable energy with pure solar. If we were to also put wind, this number can actually exceed about 75%, which would be the next natural evolution for this particular customer. The good news is we ended up offsetting about 21,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. They have this for the next 25 years. The price is fixed. They end up saving about 16 crores annually and bring down their power cost by about 30% overall. Um, so it has been a very impactful uh, case study for us and also for this particular customer. And this is something which we feel is and continue to kind of validate that with the industry that it definitely is one of the top ways to kick off the net zero journey and make sure that the lowest fruit is picked up first. That is the end of my case study. Happy to answer any more questions during the Q&A session. And this is just a quick view of how prices land up looking in Maharashtra. So against a 930 of the grid, you end up taking power in less than 6 rupees per unit. And when you work with Sunsure, you end up also making sure that you get this power started in the quickest way possible, because these are all infrastructure projects. And if once you've taken a decision that you want to go renewable, that you want to go solar, you just want to make sure that the power starts flowing as soon as possible. And that's something that we have really distinguished ourselves in, especially in Maharashtra. With all the pharma customers, we've, I think, supplied power within 5 months. So with that, I would end my presentation and look forward to the panel discussion. For the members in the audience, you can use this QR code to share any inquiries that you may have with us. So thank you, Ella. I'm just going to stop my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, for that informative and empowering presentation. So, before we move to our much awaited panel discussion, I would just like to poll one more question just to get to know our audience better. So, again, these poll questions remain open till the end of the webinar, and I would request our audience members to please cast in their votes. You have time till the end of this webinar. These are mentioned in the polls section, which you can see on your screen. Now, moving ahead, we have the much anticipated panel discussion. But before that, let's take a moment to watch a short video and learn more about Sunshore's impactful work. So, may I now request my team to please play the video?
Power drives the Indian industry. Yet, 70% of this energy is still generated from coal, increasing both energy expenses and the carbon footprint of your business. But you can now turn this around and move to 70% clean energy in just 6 months. Choose a sustainable future for your business with Sunsure, one of India's largest clean power producers, with our round-the-clock power supply to facilities of all sizes across the country. And yes, with this switch, cut down your power costs for the next 25 years. Make your power move with Sunsure. Sunsure, making India's power move.
Thank you, team, for playing that wonderful video. Moving ahead to our panel discussions, but just a quick reminder before that, we will have a live Q&A session at the end. So do keep posting your questions in the dedicated Q&A box, and our panelists will address them post the discussion. So let's move into our main segment, which is sustainability in pharma, bridging the gap between ambition and action. We have a stellar panel lined up today featuring sustainability leaders from leading pharma companies. We'll talk about the challenges of implementing sustainable practices on ground, the role of leadership in driving ESG goals, successful frameworks for collaboration between energy providers and pharma operations, and how digitalization is enabling real time energy tracking and compliance. So, without further ado, I introduce to you our esteemed panelist, Mr. Karthikeya Sharma, co founder and CBO, Sunsure Energy, Mr. Vivek Mehra, Chief Sustainability Officer and co founder, Only Good, OGFPL, Mr. Jerome Yanaprakasam, EVP and Global Head Projects, Engineering EHS and Sustainability from Dr. Reddy's Laboratories Limited, Mr. Rajesh Vasudevan, Vice President EHS and ESG from CIPLA, Mr. Tapas Saha, Senior Vice President EHS and Sustainability from Aurobindo Pharma Limited, and Mr. Dhananjay Joshi, Head of Corporate EHS from Lupin. And our expertly moderating this panel is Mr. Aditya Parchure, Associate Director Deloitte, who brings rich experience in sustainability consulting. So, welcome to all our panelists, and may I now request to please turn on your videos. Over to you, Mr. Aditya. Mr. Aditya, we're unable to hear you. Can you just check your mic once again?
Is it,
Yes, sir.
am I
You're
audible
audible.
now? Okay, perfect. Sorry for that. So thank you so much, Shala, for the introduction, and welcome all to the panelists again. It's a pleasure indeed to be a part of this. And without further ado, I'll quickly get on with the questions. Brilliant presentation, Kartikeya. We all resonate with the challenges that we have on penetrating renewable energy today. And I'm sure the panelists today will have their own views in terms of decarbonizing scope one, two, and three, because renewable energy, while it addresses scope two, if it is used across the value chain, it'll automatically end up addressing other aspects as well. So let's see how what views our panelists have on that. With that, I bring in my first question. I think I'm going to direct that to Mr. Rajesh Vasudevan, and the question is, how can pharmaceutical companies embed a sustainability-driven mindset, develop a robust net zero roadmap, and ensure accountability across their decarbonization journey? Mr. Vasudevan, if you can give your views on this, and then probably I'll take Mr. Jerome's advice also on this once you're through.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Aditya, and thanks, Sunsure Energy, for giving this opportunity. And welcome to all the esteemed panelists present over here. First, a disclaimer, and these are my personal views. These are not CIPLA views, but in the course of discussions, I may come up with my experience in CIPLA. So that's a caveat I want to bring in the start of it. To a question, Aditya, the the first question you need to ask an organization is that what's the purpose? Is the purpose of net zero or any sustainability target is whether, I mean, I all this is my favorite term, whether are you doing it for compliance or are you doing for commitment, right? Those are two different things, right? If you are doing it for compliance, and then it's going to be a win for a very short term, because any compliance which brings which government brings in, or any standard brings in, is considering the resources what we have existing, right? So the vision of EHS strategy becomes a very, very short term vision. But the moment we get into the purpose, which is protecting planet, which is also called commitment, then we should look for beyond what is the opportunities what we have, right? So then we can get into a long term strategy for net zero. So the first is defining the purpose, that are we doing it for compliance, or is the organization doing for commitment? And I would always vouch organizations to look for commitment rather than compliance. So one of the interesting questions which I had was that, being compliant, does it make a committed organization? In my view, no. I just, for my academic interest, say that how many laws are in India related to environment? There are 28 plus laws, and if we comply with almost these 28 plus laws, I think 60% of our sustainability problems are already resolved, right? But unfortunately, industry is not gearing up for it actually, right? The second is that set up targets. It can be short term and long term targets, but because I'm not spending too much time because there are other panelists and I'll should give opportunities. The most important thing to me is to have a very strong governance structure, right? In the era of greenwashing, it's better that we have a very strong governance structure, both in terms of data integrity, because what we present should be an assured data. The second is that what is the board's view on it? So I'll tell you one or two examples. I mean, in one of the boards, I don't want to see an organization, when we went and ahead and suggested because cook stove still generates greenhouse gas emissions and a lot of respiratory related illness can occur from it. So is that the right lens what you're going to use? And it struck to us saying, yeah, this is not the right thing to do, right? And right now there is always a discussion in the market: is carbon credit robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So these are the nuances which normally comes from the board. So what I mean to say that you need to have a very strong governance with somebody who knows, understands the sustainability overall field, and directs us in the right direction in terms of data integrity and in terms of governance, and in keeping away from all those greenwashing what is prevailing in the market, right? The last thing is putting resources in place in terms of driving sustainability. Not everything, and this is for all of you on that, not everything will be a payback, right? Because the purpose is protecting planet. So not everything will be a payback project. So if you have a board sign off and if your CFO is signed off, I'm sure you'll get the money despite uh, the project is not giving a payback, because ultimately it's for protecting planets. It's just I have the hat of having EHS. In EHS you cannot have a payback is protecting people, right? So in sustainability it's more of protecting planet rather than looking for a real payoff, right? So those are the three things. I'm just giving opportunities for others to speak. Aditya, my 2 cents on this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely fantastic. I mean, I fully agree with you, especially on the governance part, how important it is and how much can one bite. Uh, it needs to we need to weigh in terms of the impact that we have. But that brings me to maybe I can extend that question a little bit to Mr. Jerome sir, and Jerome sir, if you can highlight in terms of how do you see the overall journey of scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? How do you see tackling those emissions across all scopes? How what is it that you would look at from identifying the hotspots to acting on them? What has been your journey? What has been your experience in the context of your organization or any organization that you worked with in the past? So wanted your views on that.
Yeah. So thank you for this opportunity. So I'll start with what we believe in Dr. Reddy's. Basically, as Vasudev said, organization should be basically it should be a purpose driven, and they should believe in sustainable development, right? So that's a starting point for any business to commit to into sustainability. So we, as a company, we started off, way back 20 years before, and we started our first sustainability report in 2004, which has basically it talks about only on three aspects. We have about 6 goals, which was released in 2006, and those goals were basically on energy, water, and waste. So that's the way we started. We released our first GRI report, and then we continue to track those improvements on those goals on all those spaces. And then we closed it in 2020, and then 2022 we started in committing our bolder goals related to the ESG goals. But basically the goals are very bold, measurable, actionable, and it is central to the business strategy. So sustainability is a central part of our business strategy. That's the way we built all our goals, about 14 goals in Dr. Reddy's we have. They are all central to the company's overall business strategy, be it environment, be it social, or be it governance. So in the environment goals, we took the scope 1, scope 2, then the carbon neutrality, and also on the water positivity goals, which are mainly on the environmental side. And the social side, we looked at basically access, affordability, then diversity, equity, and inclusion, and so on. Of course, the governance goal. So when you talk about this decarbonization goals, right? So we have the scope 1, scope 2. When we started our journey in 2019, we were at a single digit in terms of scope 1, scope 2. Yeah, as far as the scope 2 is concerned, I'll start with the scope 2, which is, most of our factories are basically in AP and Telangana, where we have several challenges with respect to getting renewable electricity, unlike Maharashtra and some of the other states. We could able to progress with various models, as we discussed, through PPAs, through short-term, long-term PPAs. Then we did several joint venture projects in terms of, with an investment of say 26% equity to get into to avoid the cross subsidy and additional surcharges, and also getting into a captive generation plants which operates on biomass. And today, within the last 4 years, we progressed to close to about 68% on the renewable electricity. The energy we consume globally, it's about over 60, close to 68% we consume from the renewable sources. That's our journey being so far. We committed our carbon neutrality goal by 2030, but we have been pretty progressing very, very well on this. So in spite of that, there's all challenges with these states. Still, we went ahead and utilized the Government of India policy for the ISTS. We went outside of the state to get into those ISTS, interstate, the joint venture projects, large projects which give us a very good PLF in terms of even up to 85% PLF in combination of both the solar and wind, because we need a steady state, energy supply throughout the 24 hours. This is what. So we don't want a parabolic curve which gives any few hours required power supply, and rest of the time we don't have. So we'll not be able to achieve that 90% reduction in terms of decarbonization for electricity. The same way on scope 1, where we were in the similar way, since we committed again carbon neutrality by 2030. Again, we don't believe in buying credits, right? We wanted to reduce the emission. So other than the fugitive emissions, there also we are trying our level best, which is typically it is about less than 10% of the total emission on scope 1. So what we did is we started our journey in terms of how do we eliminate all the fossil fuels. We typically, those days in 2019, we consumed close to about 50,000 tons of coal, 150,000 tons of coal. You can imagine all our API operations, our captive generation plants, all majority of the plants operates with the coal. So today, I can proudly say that today we are almost coal free this year from FY26 onwards. So the journey has been quite interesting. And as far as every project which we done so far, it has been very great investment, return on investment. Leave aside, we saved huge amount of energy. Wherever we used furnace oil, we use briquettes. The cost is almost 50% less. Wherever we use, some of the places we use diesel, where we went with briquettes. Where we used, some of the plants we use coals, we went with the rice husk, which is at least pretty competitive, or even 10% cheaper than the coal price. So this is the way our journey has been, and it's quite exciting for us to, get into the neutrality goal by almost a 90+% reduction, which will help us to create a pathway for setting ourselves for the net zero. This is the way our journey has been. Of course, the scope 3 it's a challenging area wherein most of the pharma companies, if you inventorize all the 15 categories, you'll probably look at about 11 or 12 categories which applies to us, wherein the emission is close to about 60-70%, right? So most of the companies, what I heard is, even for us, it is over 70%. It is all available in the public domain. So now we started working towards strategic suppliers. How do we engage? Because Scope 1, Scope 2 is an easy thing to achieve. The way we created a roadmap, it is an easy way to reach there. But Scope 3 is one of the biggest challenge. How do we tackle this? How do we address? That is possible only with the policy changes, supplier engagements, then our transport systems, upstream, downstream, because the major spend is on the emission is only on the suppliers, right? The purchase goods and services, which is the category 1, which is the major. It consumes about close to about 40. The emission is over 40% of the total emission on the Scope 3. So it's an area where we started working, and I believe we have a clear plan to achieve. How do we do it? And with all the we spoke about how the grids are going to change, over a period of next 5 to 10 years. We believe about 30 to 50% the grid power supply would be green energy, and also probably with our influence with the strategic suppliers and working with those suppliers as partners, supplier engagement. I think one can able to easily set a target for net zero. So again, net zero has two milestones. We can go for a medium term and also a long term. Medium term can be 5 to 10 years. We can build a strategy around that, which will be either based on absolute reduction or based on your economic intensity, based on your business model. Once business model, you can decide which one would be the most suitable for you to achieve. And then, of course, by after 10 years, before 2050, you can would be the technological changes, carbon capture, which will become more viable. And I think so many other technologies which will evolve, and probably we can able to reach there. Another important aspect I wanted to call out is about the energy efficiency, which is one of the very, very important lever for decarbonization, wherein, with my experience, every company, if they put their right effort, 5 to 7% energy, you can reduce the consumption by through some investment, which will have a great return on investment. Of course, you can also use the carbon pricing as a part of your business case justification, because every ton of carbon you emit, there is a cost to that. That also you can do that. Even without that, typically within 2 years of payback, you can do great things. 5 to 7% energy efficiency, energy production, over a period of 5 to 6 years, you can easily reach about 30% reduction in terms of energy efficiency, be it the Scope 1 or Scope 2. It's a great way to decarbonize your operations, and it will also give you a lot of savings. And so far, in my experience on Scope 1, Scope 2, the sustainability journey, whatever we have done so far, it is a great support for reducing our operating expenses, and also to reduce the cost, which in turn help to serve our patients better in terms of affordability. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was, you touched upon a lot of aspects here, right from Scope 1, 2, 3 to internal carbon pricing, to moving your coal-based boilers to briquettes, and looking at ISTS as one of the very interesting options which large corporates are trying to explore. So thanks so much for that. In fact, I vaguely recall during my time with Thermax, that was way back into 2014, DRL was looking at transforming their entire cogeneration plant from coal-based to biomass-based. So I recall those days way back 10 years ago. But great to have your views, and I'm glad how DRL is progressing on this journey. With that, I want to bring in Mr. Tapasa on the next question, which very much aligns with what we discussed. Here, as I said, as Jerome so rightly said, that Scope 3 is something which is a conundrum for most industries. So, Tapasa, in your view, how can industry partnerships and green supply chain drive sustainability goals, and challenges of pharmaceutical industries can become more and more sustainable? So wanted your views in terms of how we can use partnerships in driving or reducing Scope 3 emissions.
Yeah, thanks. First, this is the first time probably I have seen that there's some topics discussed on net zero energy roadmap for pharmaceutical industries exclusively. Wherever we got that any call, various agencies, they mix up all the industry sectors. And being in the pharma sector last 30 years, and that you see the complexity in the pharma is different ball game compared to other sectors. That is probably till date in sustainability journey, pharma is much behind compared to other sectors. Now, if you see my first topic, what is the name of the topic? Is what is given by the organization? That is industry. Can you hear me? My voice is clear.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. That industry collaboration and leadership strategy for a net zero future. So when this net zero future is what is coming, then first it come to my mind. What is the future of the net zero in pharma sectors? My earlier two speakers talks about renewable energy, all many things are coming. Is really there any future of the net zero in pharma industries or not? That first question come in my mind itself. But if you ask, yeah, it is there. Definitely it is there. It is not like that there is no future of the net zero in pharma industry. The first, yeah, compliance, commitment, many things are come up, which is like a check and egg, which is compliance is needed or commitment is needed. All the two sides of the coin, probably you can say. But one thing today, it is a business requirement. Let's say without that you can't do the business, and you will not be the business competitive in the market. That is the one of the driver. Probably it has come last 5-6 years. What I observed. So today we can't ignore this sustainability journey of pharma industry. That is as simple as it is. The first, the challenge is that now if you want to the green, now we are talking the green supply chain. When we talk the green supply chain initiative, it is very important tool to make the pharma company is sustainable. But when you are green supply chain means it is a complete life cycle, right from the raw material purchase, transportation, manufacturing process. Then it is going near the end of life cycle. That means it has to be 360-degree. Now, probably we are talking that manufacturing process. Even till if you see, maybe we can reduce your energy consumption by renewable energy, all these things. But till today, in pharmaceutical sector, if you in the manufacturing sectors, for 1 kg of API, when you manufacture, and we are generating waste 6 to 10 kgs. This is the reality of the pharma sectors. This is the only sectors probably that our waste generation is 6 to 10 times more than our finished products. Now, how to really, that is a challenge, is how to offset that energy you are using for that. An equivalent amount of your scope 3 emission. You want to purchase the raw material, that much of scale up from the outsourcing outside, then 80% today also your scope 3 emission. Whatever when you go for scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, that is a huge challenge today. And next is a highly regulated business pharma industry. As you know, that if you want to change also, it is very difficult because the customer's requirement is there, regulatory compliance. If you want to do, you have to validate the process, then you demonstrate the process, then it has to be evidently documentation, then finally customers approval. It takes years together to really bring the new technology, new process in pharmaceutical domain. That is all our challenges really that behind that pulling that pharma industry behind to real achieve the sustainable journey. Though we wanted to do that, but how to do? So in spite of the so many challenges, then how to address this issue? Probably there are three indicators what I observe. One is that, yes, earlier speaker also told that we have to have fostering the mindset of sustainability. That is the first important thing. Second is that how to do that? We have the comprehensive roadmap for net zero. That is second aspect. Third is that ensuring accountability and monitoring. The three things are important pillars if you really do the journey of sustainability. When you are talking of the first time the mindset of the management, that coming the management coming in the picture. The leadership commitment. Leadership has to be committed for that they want to do the process or services which is sustainable. And for that, now many companies, even we also have done that. We have the governance committee to assess the sustainability progress, all these things. And we have to develop the culture of that sustainability culture. We have to cultivate the culture among the employees also, because they are the actual driver of this journey. We just, management cannot drive. They may guide, they can give the strategic planning, but driver of this activities can by the employees. They need proper training, understanding on this. Third most aspect, important aspect is the research and R&D. Being in the pharma, whether it is an innovator company or the generic manufacturing company in India, because we are mostly in the generic manufacturing business, not in the innovator. But R&D is the backbone of the pharma industry, as you know, and it has to start from the R&D. When they develop the process, whether they're considering the green technology, whether they're taking that catalytic, that bioenzymatic process, we have done so many things. Many a company also doing that. But till, if you ask, that journey is too long till then. When you develop the process, the first what we observe that they talk what is the yield of the process, project, product, what is the economy. These are the things that are coming the first priority. Then the next the thing coming is sustainability, all these things. So this is the now the paradigm has to be changed by the management right from the R&D itself. When the scientists understood that I need a process, I need to develop the product which is environmental friendly, which generate the low waste, recyclable material, then all the thing probably can come up. So this is the third indicator. Most important another part, just as I told already, all engaged other stakeholders. Pharma company cannot sustain by manufacturing the product until unless all the stakeholders has taken into consideration. The most important, again, I'm repeating, the regulators is the most important aspect. Customers, those who are doing business, the big pharma companies, like if take all top 10 global pharma companies, how the stringent regulation they follow when they come to our facilities, when they buy our products, that there is a big challenge to convince the customers. Itself a big challenge. Once you submit a DMA, drug master file, whatever you do that, once you want to change that, it is so Herculean task that itself dragging behind. So that we have to take that stakeholders to the confidence that, and they little bit we need some flexibility also from customer perspective, regulator perspective, so that we can do really at faster space. That is one of the things probably we have to think for that. And now next, as I told that, we need to create that comprehensive net zero roadmap. That is a second indicator, what I have told already. And scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, we need to measure the what is actual my emission factors because of my product manufacturing, from right from that scope 1, scope 2, and scope, of course, scope 3 is a huge gray area today, even today also. So if you can really measure, if you can identify the total emission due to the 3 scopes, then probably we can make the target sustainability goal by 2050, 2060, whatever the net zero target is. Needs that we need to do the initial assessment, then make that target and goal time bound target, so that we can really achieve for that. And as you know, that now today has come up that science-based target, SBTi, has come up. Many industry also doing, they have taken 1.5 degree. As a company, Aurobindo also, we have taken that 1.5 degree in that 2020, we have taken our baseline also. We are working that. We have reduced our carbon emission. But till, if you ask me, the long journey till it is there today also. And third aspect is the strategic emission reduction. When you are talking the emission reduction, then it is coming all these things, that renewable energy, the replacement by the renewable energy by coal-based. Because till today, 80% of our energy is coming from coal. But yes, now the situation has changed. Industry also understand that solar, wind, all these things can really helpful in long-term perspective, and it is also economically beneficial. That is one aspect has come up, what I understand from Sunsure now also. So these are the thing has come up. Energy already talk. I don't want to talk of energy because it is a very common. Every industry does for their own requirement how to reduce the energy. But if you see the challenges here, maybe due to the new technology, you are reducing the power consumption. But overall, if you see the net power requirement has not gone down. Because the process itself, now customers, now let I give one example. The product which is being manufactured in the natural environment, now it has been made in the control environment. That means earlier intermediate is being manufactured in the without any temperature control environment. You can manufacture only that finished product can be manufactured in the pharma area control environment. Now customers expecting I have to manufacture that product intermediate also control environment. That means I need HVAC system, AHU system. Now I am increasing the power consumption. Yeah, you got my point. So where it is very difficult. I can't stop this because it is needed of customers that I need to have their control environment to manufacture intermediate also. These are the challenges has come up. Next is that when the customers purchase the product, earlier they talk that what is the purity of the product. Now they don't talk of purity of the product. They talk what is the impurity of the products. Now nitrosamine now come up. All this thing has what happened when this type of things coming up. Then how to get rid of all these challenges? You are doing multiple more process has started. The product which is manufactured maybe by 3-4 steps, now it has gone up to 10 steps. Because to satisfy the customer's requirement, to meet the specification of the customers, and whatever you include in your process, it is end up the more waste generation. So in true sense, if you ask me, waste generation has not gone down in pharma industries, rather it has increased. So these are the really challenges today we have. Probably now gradually we can do many things with this joint collaboration with the good manufacturing practice, quality management systems, customers. If all we have to take a holistic approach to understand the environment. Environment cannot be thought isolately. When you are talking of the product quality, at the same time, we have to think for environment also. But till there is some gap. Those who are talking of quality of product, they don't talk of much of environment. If you really align all these things, definitely we can achieve net zero pharma industries also. That's all from my side.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that elaborate response, and it was indeed necessary. With that, I'll bring in Mr. Vivek and Mr. Dhananjay Joshi, and this question probably in that order maybe. So this question is around. So while we spoke of the initiatives, scope 1, 2, 3 emissions, etc., having governance, transparency, etc. Data is one big challenge. Understanding where the emissions are coming from and what sources, and tracking them on a real-time basis is also becoming a challenge. So, and this challenge becomes more magnified, especially when we look at scope 3 emissions, or even for that matter, some emissions which are coming from a processes like fugitive emissions, etc. So, so this question is to Vivek sir. How do you see, IoT based solutions or software solutions and tools playing a role here in terms of data gathering and monitoring? So maybe if you can just throw some light on those areas, considering a pharmaceutical industry.
Thank you, Aditya. So I'm speaking as a technologist because we essentially have a platform for carbon emissions and sustainability management, and we partner with Sunsure for both embodied and operational carbon. And I worked a lot on the data intensive side of pharma with big pharma, especially on drug discovery, where clinical trial data or working in validated and FDA systems requires reams and reams of data, protein analysis, things like that. Less so on the manufacturing side. But since we work with so many other clients in industries that are more data intensive from a manufacturing standpoint, we've seen where IoT has helped. So I think before I talk about IoT, I think some points that the other speakers raised are very, very important, which is regardless of whether you're looking at building a net zero roadmap, whether your motivations are driven by just being a good Samaritan or purpose driven versus compliance, you still face the same challenge with regard to data. As Karthik and others also mentioned, that 80% plus, sometimes 90%, 95% plus data with regard to carbon resides in scope 3, which essentially is upstream and downstream suppliers. Then that begs the question, if you build a roadmap, then there's just a magical future event when you get to net zero, because your suppliers are not part of it. And if 90% or 80% or whatever percent you're in is not part of it, then what good is it? Then it's just a feel good thing that you are putting in the renewable energy, you're transitioning to better materials, you get supply chain efficiency, you even do low carbon by design. But if you don't include your suppliers, it's kind of a lost cause. So our belief, and what we look at in our best case scenarios with clients that are more that have sort of more evolved processes or simpler processes, sometimes they have the good fortune of that, of having that, is to get a continuous monitoring across fragmented data sources. So the promise of IoT is that you can get data from multiple sources. And by multiple sources, I mean, let's say you have 500 suppliers. Each supplier has like 20 factories across the globe. Each factory or plant or warehouse or transportation company operates in a different country, which means they are regulated through different GHG emission factors, etc. So collating them in near real time, and I'll say monthly collation may be good enough. But IoT, of course, can do real-time time series data collation if you so want it. But given the fact that supply chains, let's say we take vaccines, right? So if vaccines go through a very, very long global supply chain, or capsules, anything of that sort, that needs temperature, humidity control, now you add carbon and carbon emissions to the mix. How much of that is a cold chain? How much of that is overseas shipping, etc.? Different providers, different geographies, different emission factors. IoT then becomes one mechanism, one of many mechanisms actually, to collate that data in real time. The others, of course, are ERP integration, Excel bulk data uploads, AI-based computer vision, etc. So we use all those tools to gather data, but the essence of what you're trying to do is get some sense of veracity in the data you collect, getting completeness across your supply chain. It's not because it's something that's sort of on a nice to-do list, but many companies, many pharma companies in India, as providers of generics to the Europeans countries as well as North America, are now subject to some stringent laws, right? Whether it's um, uh, the CBAM that's up and coming. So we have 6 industries identified that will start imposing taxation Jan 1st. Then there's a CS triple D, which is the impact of companies' operations on their environment and people around them. All of those laws, and compounding that is India's, of course, SEBI's BRSR reporting, that brings into question what is the carbon footprint of your supply chain. And can you annotate that on a monthly basis? And can you do it with some data backing and not just sort of a guesstimate of what it is? So IoT then becomes an easy way to do it. Now, the challenge, of course, is not the cost of the technology. IoT devices, like, we give those away for free. There's hardly any cost to it. The monitoring itself is also free. Like, we give away, for example, our platform license to all suppliers given through the parent subscription. The problem is more behavioral, which is, as a supplier, why would I share my data? Because it relates to a portion of my revenue, it relates to energy consumption, it relates to how much waste and transportation I incur, what kinds of vehicular emissions I have. Are they ICE vehicles? Are they EVs? Do I treat my water, right? Do I even disclose how much groundwater I'm using? So given the varying maturity of suppliers, some are mom and pop, some may be multi-thousand crore companies, and you have them all across the spectrum. The challenge is, how do you democratize this data collection? And our objective, what we've seen in the best case scenario, is it's a little bit of a carrot and a stick. The stick, of course, is the compliance. And when a large pharma company says, look, I won't do business with you because I'm scoring you on a month-on-month basis. I get your data, I'm building a leaderboard, and I see you at the bottom. And if I see you at the bottom, why am I doing business with you? I know you don't use solar. I know you don't recycle your water. And yet, just because you are timely and you have good quality and good pricing is not enough anymore. I need to see your carbon disclosure, because your scope 1 and 2 becomes my scope 3, the parent scope 3. And getting that on a continuous basis is going to greenify the whole supply chain. So that's the stick, right? I won't do business with you. But the carrot is that when a supplier or any supplier starts to measure this, then they start to get greener themselves. They optimize their energy costs. They know how much solar they need, where they need, which plant needs it, or how much wind, etc. They need to know where they need to use an alternate fuel, where they need to switch supply chains, where they need to maybe shut off the plant for certain durations of the year. Any of those factors, or even at design time, can we design using low carbon products? All of those, several orders of insights are required versus trying to implement a solar or any of these renewables in an ad hoc fashion. And it comes back to the roadmap, which is there's, like as someone mentioned, right? There's a medium term and a long term roadmap. But unless you include your supply community in that, that roadmap is just going to be sort of a farce, really. And you can do it for the enterprise in the best case scenario, even if you're highly motivated, but you're not going to be able to do it for the supply chain. And that includes a large role for human resources organizations, where you put that in the KRAs. You don't just leave it to chance and change the consciousness of a company or the culture of a company towards carbon just accidentally. You actually put that in people's KRAs. What did you do to reduce carbon for this piece of the process, both in the enterprise as well as in the supply chain? So IoT is a mechanism, as an enabler, or tech platforms like ours, where you look and collect data and automate it on a continuous basis, whether you use AI or IoT or ERP integration or computer vision. All of those things are nice, but it goes back to, I think, what was said at the beginning, which is the mindset has to be there, both purpose driven and compliance driven, because nobody's going to get away with a warmer planet fundamentally. So it's in all of our interest. And of course, if you save energy costs along the way, why not? So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have any questions. It was quite an elaborate answer. If there are any panelists want to
Yeah,
have any follow-up questions, please do come forward.
I
Uh,
can just add what the speaker talked
yes.
about it. In fact, just to give a journey on ESG at Lupin, just to tell you, we just started 4 years back this ESG journey. Uh, I can say 5 to 6 years back, our renewable energy percentage was just 1%, and now from 1% we have now almost moved to 30% of our renewable energy. That's a journey we have made, so fast. And the overall ESG journey also, it has been done so rapidly, which has actually brought us to a bigger platform in terms of competing, given the world leaders in the ESG journey they are talking about. But then when we talk about the question, which is in terms of the IoT base, so I can also give you some reference, not only on our R&D side, but also on our manufacturing side. We have already implemented the IoT based platforms for monitoring our energy consumptions, our energy efficiency, equipment efficiency, process efficiency, environmental conditions. And yes, it has not passed on for all the, I can say, units, but then this is a journey. As I said, it has just started, and about 3-4 plants we have already implemented, and we are extending it to the other plants as well, because we are getting a real benefit out of it also. In fact, the preventive maintenance or predictive maintenance tools are also embedded into those IoT based platform, which is also giving us a benefit. Now, coming back to the larger portion, because everybody talked about scope 1, 2, and scope 3 is the larger component of the emission, which is almost 60-70% of upstream and downstream of our value chain. So the purchase goods and supply services is the one, and I think the another component is the use of sold products. So I think these two are almost capturing about 90% of the emission in a scope 3. If we look at these two areas, and in fact, it's always challenging to go to the critical suppliers, really identify who are the suppliers, because earlier we started with the doing the spend-based method for the calculation, but then we realized we need to actually go with the hybrid kind of a methodology to capture the emission. So I think this IoT based is always also helpful from a supply chain perspective, to capture the data on real time basis. And how do we intervene, even and maybe encourage or maybe incentivize our suppliers into this area, because ultimately it's a life cycle. We have to do assessment. How do we make sure that the entire every component of the entire value chain is contributing to the emission reduction? Then only the net zero will be achieved, because getting a we also signed up on the SBTI, but then going back to the net zero commitment. So unless and until you have got the complete path on identifying which are the areas we have to look for the reduction, and we influence them, because they are not under directly or under control, but we need to influence them for reduction of the emission. So we're not able to really achieve the net zero. In fact, first of all, it's a good that all the pharma companies are here, and then we also was talking to many people that uh, see, everybody has got scope 1 2 has got much control in their I can say operations, but then scope 3 is the one. So even most of the suppliers must be also the common for all the pharma industries. I think we need to come to a common platform, and then we need to maybe come and start influencing our suppliers, so that whatever they initiate as action, so everybody, all of us will get benefit out of the emission reduction, rather than everybody individually fighting this as a battle. We should collectively come, have a platform, and then have IoT based data collection and intervention program has to done, because as this is not a this is an individual organization problem, because this is a worldwide problem, or the we need to protect our earth, mother earth, for the future generations. So I think we have to come together and have a good platform of data collection and intervention program, and then we have to move this journey ahead. Then only this net zero is going to be possible. Otherwise, just speaking on something like a 2050 2060, it will not just will not able to reach there. So unless and until we come together and have a common actions to close these gaps. So that's what my intention.
So, Dhananjay, I just wanted to comment on the last point you made, right? We're already seeing, so we work also, aside from pharma and chemicals, we work in automotive, and that's already started to happen. We are finding that when we work with tier one suppliers to automotive companies, OEMs, like a Suzuki Motors, etc., we find that many of them are suppliers to other companies. So it certainly does help when you have a common platform and you standardize, because one of the technology challenges, aside from the behavioral, is that when any company, pharma, automotive, etc., buys an IoT platform, they typically buy the whole stack, which is a proprietary closed loop ecosystem. So you get the software, you get the transmission and data protocols, you get the front end dashboard, etc., all bundled together. And let's say you've got one from a provider A, let's say Honeywell, then you got another one from Mitsubishi, you got another one from Siemens or a SCADA system. Then how do you stitch together data from that may be collected in these silos and put it on and harmonize it in a common platform? So we've seen that to be a challenge, especially in the context of carbon data. Even if people want to share, there is no availability of that data in a timely manner. You have got to go through layers of approvals. So that's something that having a common platform certainly solves, because then, at least for the carbon subset, which is not, let's say, financially sensitive, you can pull that data and collate it much more frequently without any pain or friction.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree on that, how to have that collective platform. So again, we are not just thought of it, but then we need to initiate some actions to have a common platform for collection of the data, because most of our suppliers are common. So whatever actions they will be initiating as their scope 1 and 2 reduction will actually get benefit for us. So how do we integrate that data as a common platform, and then start getting benefit of it? I think we need to thought of it, and IT is the best platform to maybe have a selective information pertaining to that industry. So that's what my thought is.
That's a good point.
All right. Uh, should we quickly get on with the next question? Sorry, my connection dropped, so I had to. I lost precious 5 minutes, but I hope you guys were able to get the conversation going as already it started. One question I'll probably put forth to the overall forum. Some thoughts around what is it that how pharmaceutical companies can use carbon budgeting, ESG compliance, especially from a green chemistry standpoint. Do you think there should be any interventions around the green chemistry side, which we've talked about so much? Do you feel there could be regulations or policy changes that could be brought in, which will push the pharmaceutical industry towards this? So it's just an open question. Since we're talking about green chemistry, where do you think the green chemistry aspects would tend to apply, and where do you think the support from the regulators or the policymakers would help here? Any views? Anyone wants to just take a stab at that, please?
In fact, I'll just take a 2 minutes on this. So as I touch based on the use of soil product, because that's the second highest emission, which is actually our product line is actually talking about, and we are also working on it on converting into a green chemistry, which actually also will have lesser emissions. But then I think all these efforts we have been talking in many platforms. I think the regulators or even the government also has to give some incentivization on these efforts of reduction. Yes, one side definitely we have to do it for the global cause. No doubt about it, no question about it. But at the same time, it has to be also be by funded or maybe incentivized from a government standpoint, so that the everybody will start working into that. Because as I said, it's not just we as a manufacturer, but then our entire value chain has to think of it, and they should also get some incentive out of these processes, so that collectively we can actually get the benefit of it. So that's just a small thought of it.
So Rajesh here, so I have two thoughts on this. Yes, of course, green chemistry. If we talk of green chemistry, there are two stuff. One is the chemistry within the product, and there are chemistry which is outside the project, which normally we use in CIP process and other processes, right? The low hanging fruit is where we can use it in CIP process, where we can eliminate solvents, we can eliminate various toxic chemicals which we use. And if I use my EHS hat, it's a double whammy for me, because reduction of exposure and plus of course the green chemistry part of it. The challenge here is to transition, as Dhananjay was speaking, to a green propellants, for example. Right? The challenge is the transition from a typical GHG emitting propellant to a green propellant is going to take some time because of the approvals, because pharma is a regulated environment, and to get approvals, it's a long haul process for right. So it's not a low hanging fruit, but the low hanging fruit is where when we use something which is outside the project, and of course at the design stage itself, if we consider something which is green.
Correct. In fact, we spoke about someone spoke about the quantum of waste that is getting generated in. I mean, just to manufacture 1 kg, you're generating 6 kg, 6 to 7 kg of waste. So any kind of interventions at the design level or at the chemistry level, if those interventions happen, probably we could end up reducing waste as well. I can see Jerome sir wanting to chip in, but please, if in case if you have any if few things to talk
No,
about
no,
here.
I think the same point which you are talking about. I think the waste reduction it's a biggest lever. So when you start working on the waste reduction and improve the yields through green chemistry, basically you can reduce the waste from minimum between 15 to 25% you can reduce. So this will also improve your cost competitiveness on the product. So I don't see there is a need of a regulation, but if any company wanted to sustain in the long term, I think this should be basically they should continue to work on the green chemistry, which is yield improvement, highest solvent recovery, waste reduction, or all those aspects one should be working on. Developing a product instead of using organic solvents in formulations, go with all water. So all that definitely it will try to save a lot of cost and making your operations much safer than where we are today, which will also give
Sure.
indirectly and as an outcome as a cost and competitiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. I want to bring in Mr. Kartikeya. I think we had a lot of fantastic presentation that he made, and he touched upon very critical points in terms of we are all aware of the traditional open access in the winds and the solars, but there was one element on the VPPA aspect which he also touched upon. And I'll just have a follow-up question on that, Kartikeya, as to how do you see that area flourish and help decarbonize pharmaceuticals or any sort of manufacturing operations? Where do you think would play a role? VPPAs would play a role. We've seen in use cases in Europe. I'm not sure if there are any in India, but India has been talking about BPPA regime since quite some time. But just want your views on how how BPPAs can help decarbonize, whether they are the right means of decarbonize, whether they're a long-term solution, what challenges you face. Any views on that, please?
Sure, Aditya. Thank you for that. See, I think VPPAs, while they've been part of the discourse for quite some time now, one thing is for certain that from a regulatory standpoint, uh, getting into a very large scale VPPA is not considered very safe right now by the same set of customers or same set of industries who are maybe enjoying the benefits of such arrangements outside of India. So VPPAs essentially mean that you are able to buy power from a power market instead of physical supply of power, right? Or you are able to at least link your power buying price to a power market, uh, right? And so that kind of decouples your need to physically take power, which involves a lot of regulations, etc., etc. So this creating the merchant market, creating the power market as an intermediary is a key part of VPPA, and it works best when a country's power market is actually deep enough. So in India, uh, we have a fantastic grid, right? Our national grid is actually an engineering marvel, and we probably have one of the most sturdy, one of the best, and in fact one of the most advanced national grids at this scale in the world. It's not something that a lot of people believe, even if they get to know that, but it's actually a fact, right? So in India, and a lot of regulations have been created to ensure physical delivery of power as well. Like at Dr. Reddy's, they are most of their, from what I understand, most of their manufacturing facilities are in the state of AP and Telangana, which is where maximum demand is there, or maybe some in Karnataka. If even if within the state it's a challenge to take power, they've been able to now take power over ISTS networks, right? So the question of VPPA, first of all, only comes if you're not able to take power physically. Taking power physically is the best, because then you're directly contributing to not to ensuring that there is not new coal is not coming up to supply your growth, right? So for whatever growth you have, if you're able to take physical power, delivery of power, nothing like it. You're using power. If you take round the clock power, which is again something that Jerome sir was talking about, it's a mix of solar and wind. So you're using green power when you're using power instead of using banking to offset it, right? So VPPAs, if I were to summarize it, is a way to get green credits or to use the market to buy power, in which case power will always land up more expensive because then you can't do it in captive. Okay. Credits always should be used to only take care of the tail of your demand, right? So the body of your demand should be offset using physical delivery of power. And in India, it makes a lot of sense. So the conversation on VPPA from a regulatory standpoint is still developing. We have solid cues from CERC and even SEBI that they are in constant discussion on finding a way out, because that's a key reason, that's a key aspect of actually scaling green power in our country. Not so much for industries, I would say. In fact, I think the utilities might actually be more in need of VPPA kind of structures for their peak power demand rather than industries. So I would say that it's an important discussion, but if you're not already maybe 60-65% on renewable energy, is not something that an industry should be spending their time. That's my view on VPP.
I certainly allude to it. I mean, in my personal opinion, I see it as a stopgap arrangement, maybe for till other decarbonization technologies come to the front in terms of actual purchase of power, be it battery storage or pump storage or any of these. So, uh, the, I think
But Aditya,
that's yeah.
sorry. I think some of the panelists, maybe if they have their experiences with buying credits or buying VPPs, I think it might be very useful to get their views. Maybe
Yeah,
Jagmeet
so
sir or Rajesh.
Karthik, I did some work on this some time back. In fact, we reached out to a complete proposal stage. So what I looked at is the outcome of this is basically the generator will invest based on my need, right? So when I want, say, 100 or 200 million units, he will invest on my behalf, but I will not be investing anything on the capital. But there would be a takeoff price, in terms of per unit cost. Say whatever cost is getting finalized based on the capital investment, and they will sell it to the exchange, and then I will get the green credits. But the downside risk is, we don't know how the market is going to behave over a period of next 25 years. So the downside risk is on me, right? So whatever price I sell it to the exchange, and I realize the price, and if the exchange price goes down, then the risk is on me. So that's the way today the VPPA business is working in our country today. So I get the green credit, but somebody has to buy the. I'm not consuming the power. I get the credits, but somebody has to buy the brown power. That's the way it is. So in my view, it's not a great idea at this point of time for industries, while we have other options which are currently available in the market.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Any other views, Rajesh sir, Dhananjay sir, Tapas sir, Vivek, if you want to chime in on this topic?
No, I mean, I agree with Karthikeya that if you have a view of, see, RA is a very regulated market, right? It all depends on where our plants are in. For example, we are struggling in Goa because Goa doesn't have a RE policy, right? And then we have this contract demand. Sometimes, you can't go beyond contract demand. And then we have this net zero ambition, right? So all things have to tie up. So we should exhaust all our options before we step into VPPA, right? And at least in my view, that VPPA is better than buying straight away carbon credits from the market, or buying paying extra tariff to, in Maharashtra you pay extra tariff and you get a green certificate that 100% of your energy is renewable. I think VPPA is of the lesser evil than these two other options. That's my personal view.
Completely echo your thoughts on that.
Yeah, for just from because I'm not the expert on all this the credit or PPM model what you are discussing right now. But as a company, what we have done, we have the group captive concept. We have that we invest money in solar plant and 30-40% our investment, and we are getting equivalent quantity of the power. And that also working very well in our company, and we have put in Vizag, even in Telangana also. 3 facilities we have. But definitely what we are consuming is much less what we are generating from solar. But it is working very fine in our case.
Right, sir. That is the most popular way of actually taking renewable energy, entering into a captive or a group captive arrangement. It puts your skin in the game. It obviously makes it more, dependable for your own supply, and it is the cheapest way to deliver power to you because you don't attract cross subsidy surcharge and additional surcharge, and in fact, all of that. In fact, on the panel we have Mr. Dhananjay Joshi from Lupin, and for Lupin we recently delivered a 30 megawatt group captive, captive project, 26% equity and dedicated 30 megawatts to them in Maharashtra, which would be one of the larger, pharma group captive arrangements in Maharashtra. Of course, Rajesh sir is here on the panel, so please.
Yeah, we are
No, I'm
100
saying that
megawatts.
the only thing is that most of the pharma companies can go beyond manufacturing because in a typical pharma there are a lot of depots, right? And we can actually influence these depots to install rooftop solar, and we are reaping huge benefits in terms of contract. We ask them to invest. I mean, we don't own the stuff, but we ask them to invest, or we invest and ask the the depot owners to give the credit back to us, right? So it's going beyond manufacturing because pharma has a huge supply chain within having multiple warehouses and depots.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for all your views. One, maybe I think we probably have time for one last question, which I want to touch upon. Now that we have talked about multiple technologies in solar, we spoke about biomass, etc. Beyond that, how do you see the decarbonization space shaping up, especially from a power generation or power consumption standpoint? Now we have in the recent budget, there was a focus on the nuclear space. So having small modular reactors, whether they can be, the debate going on whether they can be used for captive purposes or not. There are likes of Tata Steel and all who are in talks with NPCIL to foray into those solutions. How do you? That question probably I would throw to Kartikeya first, and probably then others can chime in. But uh, as a power generator or as a power developer, how do you see the alternative power space shaping up, especially from a CNI standpoint? Any views, Kartikeya?
Sure, absolutely. Aditya. See, I think solar remains and will continue to remain the easiest, fastest, and the most economic way of producing power. The challenge obviously is that it is infirm. So we just heard Mr. Tapas Sahasa say, that while there is a lot of solar, you're not able to use it all the time. Sometimes, you have excess power. Obviously, you end up paying for that and not using it. So that's the problem with solar and also with wind, right? That it's a little, infirm and a little bit unpredictable. Whereas industry needs, firm supply of power, absolutely dependable supply of power. And to get there, I think we are now very close. So we are, I think, maybe 1 or 2 years away from firm renewable energy, and that is going to come from a mix of solar, wind, and battery storage. So battery storage prices for lithium-ion battery storage have actually, if you remember, the price trend that solar panels were following from 2011 till 2018, that 7-year period of massive cost reduction where solar panels became almost 75 to 80% cheaper, right, over a period of less than a decade. The battery storage, large scale stationary battery storage technology is right now in that phase of commercial development, wherein massive factories in China are coming up. The technology is evolving very fast. Integrators in India are learning how to build it, in a lower cost, in an environment like India. I think over the next 1 to 2 years is going to be a period where we will be testing stationary battery storage at gigawatt scale across the country. We will get to know what are the operating characteristics, how is the performance that is coming out, while also driving down the price of that. And once that becomes commercially viable, which viable, and I believe that it's going to become common before the end of this decade, wherein every solar project is going to have some amount of battery storage along with it to number one, take off excess power supply, and number two, make the power supply flatter, right? So make it more predictable. In fact, we at Sunsure are actively working with our existing set of customers to develop certain pilots of these projects, even by putting battery storage behind their meter, right? So what we found is that a lot of large commercial and industrial customers had rooftop solar. That was the first thing they did, and they wanted to now move to open access solar, and there is some regulatory uh, deadlock between going open access while also enjoying rooftop. So one midway is to put some battery storage on premise. It doesn't take a lot of land, and just shave the peak of your rooftop solar and start using more open access. So I think that is one thing that is going to be very common. It's going to be the next set of energy procurement discussions that all of the large industries will take will involve battery storage. We're already seeing massive volume of requests. That I think would be on the green energy side. Now, when it comes to nuclear power, I think it's a very strong contender for the energy transition, and it's going to really turbocharge the energy transition if we are able to come up with the right technology and the right regulations around it. But I would say that the scale of that technology is a little different when it comes to CNI, right? So if you look at very large steel or aluminum or mining operations who are using maybe 300, 400, or 500 megawatts of continuous power, that is where I feel that nuclear reactors will come in as a key changer, key game changer. But I would say for industrial consumption of anywhere from 10 to 50 megawatts, which is where at least the pharmaceutical industry, in my experience, rests from one facility to another facility. I would say that renewable energy firmed up by using battery storage is something that is going to be a big value addition over the next 4 to 5 years.
So, Rajesh here. So, I did a bit of research on this nuclear, right? The nomenclature will now move towards from RE to a clean energy because I don't think nuclear is a renewable energy, right? The problem with nuclear energy with the current regulatory environment is that the capex investment has to be done by us, and the operations has to be done by the I think it's nuclear power atomic AARB, right? So there are a lot of guidelines. It's kind of not a matured as of now, but the investment required is huge, and the current regulations prohibit usage of that. I know that Tata is going to invest, but in my view, I think best in the short term, best is going to be the best, and beyond that, I think nuclear. And I want nuclear to come because that's a clean energy. The only hope what I have if you go sign for any SBTI.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are, a lot of discussions, debate, deliberations happening around it, especially uh, having the technology flourish in terms of modular reactors, but also challenge of waste that it would bring in as well, right? So how do we dispose that? And that challenge is not just there for nuclear; it is also there for lithium waste. So we are going to have the waste conundrum to solve for both the technologies, I guess. But I work in the decarbonization space, and I lead the net zero space for the Deloitte sustainability practice. So in my experience, it's been that no single solution can solve the problem. I mean, there needs to be uh, a solution. There are multiple solutions will have to come onto the front to address all the scope 1, 2, 3 emissions that we are talking about. But thank you so much, everyone. I think that sort of sums up the questions that I have. But I'll quickly, pass it on to Shruti, maybe, or Aha, who's here, Allah, who's here. Yeah, yeah. So, uh,
Aditya, I had
Allah,
one
if you
comment.
can.
Just
Yeah,
wanted to make
yeah,
one comment.
sure,
So
sure. Any.
I think one other thing to keep in mind as we think of carbon roadmaps is the new CCTS scheme being proposed, the carbon credit trading scheme, and the new sovereign exchange that will come up hopefully next year. Because as we look at this more holistically in terms of achieving net zero goals, energy being, of course, one large component of it. The other aspects I think are also important to consider, that we look at waste, water, etc., transportation holistically, lower the carbon footprint. Maybe portions of the business, if not the entire supply chain, can become carbon neutral and become carbon positive. Then you can avail of things beyond REs. I think that would be a good goal to have.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, what was, I mean, this is a challenge which uh, we also faced, that we used to talk about carbon neutrality earlier, and that the shift came towards net zero, wherein carbon neutrality was all about doing something and then procuring, carbon credits for the balance. Whereas net zero spoke about only the residual emissions you can, address using credits, whereas you need to decarbonize. So that created a lot of vacuum, which even SBTi is trying to address, as to how do you address those scope 3 emissions, because unless and until you have the money flowing into these technologies, things are not going to work, right? And if you stop, so a lot of companies ended up missing out on their SBTi targets, because they there were no, they could not adopt technologies which were feasible. Neither could they invest into carbon credits, because it was not adding any value to their decarbonization journey. And that's where now the debate is happening at the SBTi level, as well, as to how do we make credits as one of the key elements, so that money starts flowing into these technologies. Multiple startups, not multiple technologies, who are coming to the front, which would need this kind of incentive, which can be channelized through CCTS or carbon credits, or whichever, whether we talk of voluntary or mandatory mechanisms. But thanks so much for that. Yeah, Ala, sorry, yeah, I'll probably bring you in if you want to say the closing remarks.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Aditya, for leading such a thoughtful and insightful discussion. And a big thanks to all our esteemed panelists as well for sharing your experiences so candidly. And we'll now move ahead to our Q&A session. And it is evident from the thoughtful and provocative discussion that happened today, we've received an overpour of questions. Just before that, I would like to screen one last poll question here, and I would request the audience to please cast their votes for this as well. And it'll be open and in the poll session. Now I shall just screen a few questions here. We've received a lot of questions. I'm not sure we have time for all of them, so I'll just start.
Yeah, so I think which one is generally preferred and accepted in scope 2 net zero journey? Are all PPA, VPPAs, and RECs accepted? Which one is generally preferred? How would it be? Different would be the cost of each of these as a company for me. Would like to understand this. Anyone wants to take a stab at this? Probably Karthikeya could be anyone. In fact, everyone is an expert here.
Yeah, I'll just maybe start it quickly, and then the panelists can answer. See, I think number one, this depends on which state you are buying the power or any of these aspects in India, right? Um, Typically, the cost of physical power is the most beneficial. It's much cheaper, typically about 25 to 30% cheaper than your grid price. Now, whichever state you are in, just I would say index it to that grid price there. VPP and RECs are typically an expense over and above your power expense, which you do in order to offset what you've already consumed from the grid. So the pricing again depends on which year you're trying to do it, what is the volume that you're trying to buy, and yeah, I would say these are all BPPs and REC is more of a commodity, and the price keeps changing time to time. It also depends on whether you're buying it from like Rajesh sir was highlighting, right? That if you dedicated a plant to yourself, which you are underwriting a strike price for on the power market, you're expected to maybe get your interactive credits at a lower price, which is a typical BPPA. Or if you're simply buying REX, then that price you can either find out from IEX. I think IEX sells all the REX. It's an open public market. Whereas IREX is, it depends on the volume and year for which you are trying to buy it. Over to you, panelists, if you want to answer more add more to this.
Yeah, so I'll just to give my views on PPA. Basically, PPA has two parts. One is the third party PPA, which mostly it comes with a higher cost. Probably most of the PPA sellers, they it would be mostly for a short term. One can use it, which will be marginally lesser than the grid power. That's one of the thing. And when you go for a power purchase agreement by an investment of 26% equity as a joint venture project with a power purchase agreement, there you can get, as you said, 25 to 30% benefit you can get, which I see it is a long term and you can rely upon, and then this would be the best option one can probably look at it. And VPPA we had discussed, and the risk associated with that. RECs today, if there are any shortfalls, you can get maybe between 8 paisas and 10 paisas. But when you go for a long term, I think you will not be able to get less than 1 rupee, which is going to be, again, we don't know how it is going to be. So my view goes to, wherever possible, PPA with an investment of joint venture, JV kind of thing with the 26% equity, so that you will be qualified. And again, you will not be it will not apply any cross subsidy or additional surcharges as per the policies, so you'll be exempted from those taxes. That's my view. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have the next question? Okay. I'm trying to decarbonize my village. The question: how pharma industry can support individual initiatives? This is an interesting question, sir. To all the pharmaceutical, CXOs here. Thing is, in fact, that's a conundrum. Lot of companies, not just pharma companies, any corporates try to face is they're a profit making organization and they tend to have CSR budgets. And the first question is, can I use CSR budget to do something about my carbon footprint or do initiatives around that? Probably decarbonizing someone's village or decarbonizing a close by village near the facilities vicinity could be one of the CSR activities. But any views here?
So here is my
Yeah.
take, right? I don't think CSR cannot be combined with, because CSR is more of a regulated and community benefit, and we cannot take the credit of that into the organization's overall carbon benefit, right? But there are many organizations who are doing sustainability initiatives outside their manufacturing domain in communities, but you can't take credit of it. For example, we in CIPLA, we have installed solar in villages. We've done a lot of water conservation projects in different parts of India, but we can't take credit as a part of sustainability because it comes under CSR domain, and there are more of regulations coming in CSR. We can utilize the money, but you can't take the credit out of into our RE. Right? But again, it all depends on what the organization wants. For example, if I take ITC is more into water domain because that is their core area. For me, if you take most of the companies in pharma, our domain is giving access to medicines to villagers, right? And that's where my community support lies, right? So it's not a particular village. What's the purpose of that company? What's the purpose of that organization, right? And if my purpose is giving renewable energy to villages, so be it. Invest it through CSR, but don't claim it as something, as a carbon saving for the organization.
Right. I was just trying to marry two questions. Sorry, it was probably a more simple question, but I thought I'll bring in just to give that clarity to the audience that CSR funds, whether you can use them, not use them, etc. But you clarified it so well, sir. Uh, do we
Yeah,
move
one
on? Yeah.
it can be done. Obviously, we cannot take everything as a carbon credit. It is a purely CSR activity, and many companies they are doing also. Even we also do. May not be it is decarbonized fully, but we do the solar lot of activities, solar lantern, solar panel. To this we have given, but we can't link with their carbon credit process. Absolutely, what Mr. Rajesh is telling correct. Anybody can do that. It is not nothing like the pharma industry. Any industry, any institution can do that. Yeah, please.
So our next question is which particular ESG framework is recommended for decarbonizing operations effectively? If anyone would like to contribute to this.
Is it SBTI? I think SBTI is the only framework currently available for giving your commitment for net zero or even any other commitments in terms of decarbonization.
So decarbonization. So SBTI is one of the ways in where you announce your goals. The only challenge with SBTI is that if you've stated your goals under SBTI, you cannot then use offsets. You can purchase offsets. But the other frameworks include the GRI framework. There's also a European framework called ESRS on which the CSRD regulation is based. So there's many. And then listed companies in India, and if you're part of that supply chain, you have to follow what is the BRSR framework, which is the SEBI guideline, which is again based on the GRI. So GRI is generally the motherlode of all the ESG parameters. And it's probably the most popular framework in the world. But many are derivatives of that. So I think the question is more to satisfy which compliance requirement. If there's no such compliance requirement, then you take the broadest one and derive your own from that.
Yeah, but my understanding of this question is on the decarbonization of your operations, and today we are discussing net zero.
Yeah.
When we look at net zero today, as far as I know, SBTI is the only framework
Yes.
which is available for decarbonization. But other frameworks are all disclosure platforms, so you can.
That's right.
Yeah, so like BRSR or any other global frameworks which are there, which can give your disclosures.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So we have time for just one more question as we've already exceeded the time limit. Uh, the question is, how do smaller players solve the financial challenges and constraints to start and or scale up their decarbonization journey? Funds may be a major challenge when a lot of countries and companies are today scaling back on their pledges and ambitions.
I would say using technology is clearly one way to reduce the costs, because before you start to do anything, you need to understand what you have and start to measure. You cannot, you cannot be driving a car without a dashboard. So first you need to understand what it is you have, and then you make adjustments based on it, and create goals, create a roadmap, and then start your journey. But I think measuring the current state is probably an important step, and the technology is surprisingly not expensive. I think it goes back to what some of the earlier speakers had said. It goes back to mindset and what is the purpose of what you're trying to do. So my view is that, see, whether it's a small company or big company, and I feel small companies are more efficient because we have been doing a lot of stuff not under the ambit of sustainability, but in terms of reducing cost, right? And where have we been reducing cost? Reducing cost is improving our energy efficiency, improving our efficiencies across our manufacturing operations, which basically scope 1 and scope 2. So any company will be already doing scope 1 and scope 2, not in under the ambit of sustainability, but at least in terms of reducing cost. You just need to convert that cost into GHG savings. That's it, right? Because those are the low hanging fruits in any industry, scope 1 and scope 2. And I'm sure that, and because we deal with very small scale industries, they have been doing this for donkey's years, right? It is just that they have been, their focus was reducing cost. Now we said that if you are reducing cost, just convert that into GHG savings. That's it, right? The only challenge comes when you go beyond the gate, which is scope 3. But I think that's a journey every organization will go through. But I think we should go through low hanging fruits on scope 1 and scope 2. Convert your monetary benefits into GHG savings. That's a good start for small scale industries.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to contribute?
Yeah, I have some. See,
Yes.
whether it is small or big company, particularly for small companies, whatever they want to invest money, if there's no return of investment, it is no meaning at all. First of all, and that is the major challenges for most of the companies. So now, what we also started, we don't do capital investment now. If is return of investment is there, we ask that vendor to put up the facilities and we pay monthly some sort of rental, whatever. And this is a win-win situation for the investor also, for the company like that, the industries. This model is very, I think it is now it's a very workable model for the industries and those who are the suppliers of the technologies. For them also, they no need to invest money in a bigger scale, but they will get constant income monthly basis, and that is also good for them. So this model may work if there is a return of investment is there. If it is not, then no system will work for that. I think it's charity. Nobody will do the free lunch.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So, that is all the time we have to address the questions. We still have more, but I'm afraid we're out of time now. So, I'd like to just wrap up today's session. And I'd like to thank each one of you for your participation and curiosity. A special thanks to all our speakers and panelists for making this session rich with insights and learnings. And a big thank you to our partner, Sunsure Energy, for their continued support. We hope this session helped spark new ideas and new collaborations in your sustainability journey. We'll be back soon with more deep dive discussions on decarbonization, ESG strategies, and innovation in clean energy. Until then, stay sustainable, stay inspired. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.